What's up, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Pet Shop Boys, and back with the second B-side from the New York City Boys single included in this expanded folder for the 1999 album Nightlife. Thank you as always to Seb. And the next track, make sure I have it right, Casting a Shadow, which is interesting. Like, it's almost seemingly another variant of the general concept of the previous track, which is to say, you know, a ghost of myself. It is an entity which is in some ways, let's say, an ontological shadow of the being that used to exist in a more whole respect. Now, a shadow is not something per se, it's the absence of something. It is the absence of light that is being blocked by something else, and ultimately the idea of a shadow being an indication of something that is not there anymore or is not there in that current location. I think there's at least a bit of a conceptual similarity to the idea of a ghost. But again, more formally, a shadow is the absence of light because something is blocking the light and so it can't get through, and so you're seeing only the lack of something. But of course, there's an implication that there's something physical preventing that light from getting in, all of which is great possibility for metaphor and figurative meaning. But I do wonder, again, if the shadow, it might be visual, and, you know, some of the lines might play with that image of a shadow being cast, but I wouldn't be surprised if most fundamentally it is emotional or figurative in some means. So again, someone from the past casting a shadow over your life. They're blocking the light of the present because there is this emotional blockage from the past. So that might have nothing to do with it. Let's give it a listen. This is Pet Shop Boys. The song is Casting a Shadow, and it's the second B-side from the New York City Boys single from the album Nightlife. So my intro, I know a number of you are thinking like, Matt, it's an instrumental. There's actually no lyrics, so I apologize. But, even when it comes to techno or trance though, even when I know in advance that, it's going to be a track that at most might have a sample, but not any lyrics or vocals per se, I still often think about, why did this producer choose this particular name? So still, it wasn't a fruitless exercise, but I apologize because, of course, I was thinking as if there would be lyrics. But okay, first of all, I didn't mention in my previous reaction, I'm going to try to remember to either put it in the description or maybe a pinned comment because I know not everyone reads descriptions. But for the Ghost of Myself track, I was thinking that mostly it was smooth and mellow and it was, consonant. There was like smooth melody to it, but there were a couple sections where it was sort of like tension. There was a bit of stress in the sonics. It was different in this one, but there was a little bit of stress or tension in a couple of the aspects sonically. Also, in the previous tune, there were some very light acidic, if not formally acid, like 303, but definitely some little acidic touches. Here they were a bit more prominent, and definitely there were some very electric, like trance, 90s trance type synth lines. So yes, fundamentally I would say this was like 90s, progressive melodic trance, though again, maybe with a bit of darkness to it in a couple of the aspects. I would say this would fit perfectly on the Platypus label, not spelled like you think, but with an I. But yeah, it was a 90s especially. I mean, I think they made tracks into the 2000s, but I think their most famous stuff is from the 90s. It was a UK trance label with a very kind of atmospheric, outdoor, but also kind of in your headspace type of vibe on the album overall. And, often with melody and a touch of acid here and there. And again, this track could fit perfectly on that label. And yeah, so no lyrics to speak of. Casting a Shadow, I guess that's up for interpretation, but ultimately I did enjoy the feeling of the tune, and definitely at a tempo, like it was not a slow track. And again, it's the kind of tune, especially with having no vocals, that very much could slot perfectly into like a 90s progressive trance mix from yours truly or other DJs who still play a lot of music from the trance and techno of the 90s. So yeah, very cool tune, and I ultimately enjoy this kind of track being a B-side on a single that is otherwise, songs with lyrics and vocals in a formal sense. So very cool of the Pet Shop Boys to, from different eras, make dance tracks that are clearly, despite all of their lyrical sophistication and very much working in the realm of synth pop and synth dance, that they just sometimes make straight up like electronic dance tunes that could very much be played at, underground parties. So yeah, definitely cool. Do let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.